Welcome to a new video around data governance in Identity Manager. In this video session we will see
in this video, we're going to talk specifically about resource access. So we have two types of access reports, from the resource perspective and from the account perspective. We'll talk about resource in this video and the different options that you can do as part of that report, including expanding groups, showing deviations, and also where you can get the reports.
Brilliant, Matt. Let's start with that.
So the flip side of account access is resource access. So DGE does a great job of finding out from the account access perspective where accounts have access, directly or indirectly via those accounts group membership. And the flip side of that is the resource access. So resource access is pointing to a specific file folder share and finding out who has access to that specific resource. So if you have a folder out there, you can run the resource access report on it, and it'll show you all of the accounts directly or indirectly that have access. So here we have a resource that I'm going to run the resource access report. So here's my managed host, but on this tab, I already have the resource browser opened to sister stuff folder. So on sister stuff, you can see that domain admins has access below right there. And you can see that the domain local Matt Sisters group has access as well. But because of those groups, actually there's accounts that have access. The membership of those groups are what provide the access. So what we want to do is find out who has access to this resource. And the way that we do that is by running the resource access report. So you can see here in the task pane, we have resource access report. And you can also right click on any resource and get the task there as well. So here's the resource access report. So let's run it. You have two options available for you when you run the resource access report. Child resources show access deviations with block inheritance or explicit access. Basically what that means is that for any target resource that you're running the report against, if you select this, not only is it going to look at the security at the root level, but it's also going to recursively look at all subfolders and files and look where anywhere that the security is not being inherited. So if you have explicit access control entries or you're denying inheritance, then the report is going to show that. And then groups. Let's say in this particular example, which is a good example, I have down here a domain local group, which has within that a global group, and within the global group, it has my sisters, right? So by expanding groups, not only is it going to show the access control entry directly by showing domain local Matt Sisters, which isn't very interesting on its own, it's who actually has access to my resource. By selecting expand groups, that's what DGE is going to do. It's going to expand recursively the group membership so that you can find out everybody who has access or anybody who is denied access to those resources. So let's go finish. And we're going to generate that report. So again, DGE server is contacting the agents responsible for that resource. And here you go. So here's the resource. It's the sister stuff. That was the target of our query. And you can see here that J. Gillis and P. Green have access. Even though they weren't directly on the resource, you can see that they have access, and I'll scroll over, via this access control entry, which was the domain local Matt Sisters group. So if I were to remove domain local Matt Sisters from that access control entry, then Pam and Jen would lose access to that resource. So there you go. So that's what it's doing. It's expanding the group membership so you can see who has access. Deviated child resource. So again, we selected to show child deviations, which means that when the report is generated, it's going to look at all the subfolders and look for anywhere that there's explicit access control entries or anything else is different. And here it found this particular folder, which is hide from our brother Matthew. Right? So they created a subfolder called Hide from Our Brother Matthew, and I believe I have it open right over here. Sister stuff, Hide from Our Brother Matthew. So in there, they have one text file, which is what to buy Matthew for his birthday. And of course, It's an Audi R8. That's what they're going to buy me for my birthday. But what they did was, on that resource, and I'll go back to the resource browser so you can see, within sister stuff, hide from her brother Matthew, they added a deny permission for me. They denied me explicitly to this folder. And by denying me explicitly, they added an explicit access control entry, which is what the resource access report here is actually showing. So there's a deviated child resource from the parent. Matico MUs has been explicitly denied access to this subfolder, hide from her brother Matthew. And that's what that's showing. So that's the resource access report via the manager. The resource access report is also available via the web portal. So here's the web portal, and I'll go to my settings and report subscriptions. At the very bottom here, it's called File System Resource Access Report, right there. Now the only caveat to this is that the File System Resource Access Report through the web portal is only going to work if you have governed data. It can only target data that happens to be in the One Identity Manager database. So for DGE, that means governed data. So the target resources, when you select a target resource, you can only pick governed resources. So if there's nothing in there, you won't be able to select anything and you can't run this report. However, if you do have governed data, so if you were to publish that sister stuff folder to the IT shop, or if you were just to set an owner, then that resource will be available for selection as part of this subscription.